talking a lot. Just wow. Hey, Bella. Hold on, I gotta coffee real quick. How are you? Sorry, I lost my coffee cup. Where did my coffee cup? Oh, there. I found it. Sorry about that. Oh, Poochie's doing good. She's on the couch right now. We're gonna close out of that. Here, you can't bring the phone up any higher than I already can, so I can though. Zoink. She's laying on the couch. There we go. She's chilling. She's just laying down, relaxing. We're waiting on mom to get home from work. She doesn't get off until 10 tonight. What you doing, Gizmos? Like nothing, just laying here. She's gotten bigger, of course. Oh yeah, she's definitely gotten bigger. Yeah, she's laying on the couch right now. She's like, yeah. She's like, I'm gonna stay on the couch, Dad. You do you. Oh, but yeah, she's definitely gotten bigger. I want to say she roughly weighs. I want to say close to 40 pounds by now. Had to grind up some weed to put in the bong. Excuse me. Well, let's see if I may end up going outside to smoke this bowl, but doubtful. Here, let me show you what she looks like here. Come on, camera. She's definitely gotten bigger, Habibis. I love how my stream freezes. Yeah, she's gotten bigger. She's not the small pup that everybody used to know. That is for damn sure. Not yet. I don't want to end my stream. Not yet. But honestly, though, Trump, quit bitching. You lost. You want to say you're the greatest president ever? No, you're the worst president ever. No president has ever whined as much as you have. Jesus. Trump still won't concede. Trump is delusional. That's okay, though. I'm expecting martial law to be called by Trump. Put some dry ice hash on the
While many Americans celebrate, President Trump is refusing to accept defeat. His campaign says it will contest Joe Biden as a projected winner and plans to file legal challenges in Pennsylvania starting on Monday. Earlier at a press conference in Philadelphia, Trump campaign lawyer Rudy Giuliani said President Trump's campaign was, quote, denied its right to a fair count. Giuliani said he has a group of poll watchers who are willing to testify that there were issues counting the ballots. Joining us to talk more about this is CBS News campaign reporter Zach Hudak. Zach, what specifically are the issues in Pennsylvania with ballot counting that Giuliani is talking about? And remind our viewers what the courts have already said about this issue.
Lana, there's actually already a lawsuit over this that went to the Commonwealth Court right down the street from me in Harrisburg here, and they ruled in favor of the Trump campaign. The issue was that in Philadelphia, the poll watchers, which any campaign is allowed to have a certain number of poll watchers anywhere ballots are being counted to make sure nothing nefarious happens, they were being kept in kind of a almost like a press pin within the Philadelphia Convention Center. That was a product of just it being this massive operation. But anyway, the Commonwealth Court ruled that they needed to be able to roam more freely. They needed to be able to get within 6 feet of pretty much all of the counting. In Philadelphia, they actually halted counting at one point and then made this adjustment. So what Giuliani's talking about, I want to be really clear. Poll watchers were in the room, and Philadelphia actually made a change to follow a lower court's order. So whatever Giuliani's going to be coming out with on Monday, it seems clear he wants to discount about 600,000 ballots in Philadelphia. It's going to be, I think, a tough battle.
Right, and fundamentally, the argument here, and by my count, this is the third legal challenge that the Trump campaign has brought in Pennsylvania. But the argument is about watching these votes being cast, as opposed to providing any evidence of this widespread voter fraud, which we have heard the president talk about. But that has been something that they have not been able to substantiate. So, Zach, what is the campaign now trying to do in these remaining moments to try and rally and maintain support behind the president if, in fact, these legal challenges aren't able to amount to any change in the outcome of the election?
Really, a lot of the legal challenges are the thrust of their momentum right now, or whatever momentum they have left. They're also trying to get ballots that came in within a 3-day extension not to count, and they're trying to limit how long voters are allowed to make corrections on the identification part of their mail ballots. What's particularly interesting about that is, yes, those are categories of voters that traditionally would skew Democrat, and it seems they have skewed Democrat, but those votes aren't even in the tally that we have so far that the president is behind it. The traditional recount strategy would tell you if you're behind, you want as many recounts as possible. Well, this isn't a recount, this is a count, but you would think similar logic would follow that if you're behind, you want those ballots that haven't been counted to count, which is different from the Philadelphia situation because those are ballots that have already been tallied. But the campaign is raising tons of money for legal defense. But I would note that if you look at those emails they're sending out raising it, you read the fine print, 60% of those donations are actually going to paying off campaign debt, not fighting these legal fights. So supporters should be aware that if they make one of those donations, it's not purely going to these court battles.
That is fascinating, Zach. All right. Well, how is the Biden campaign responding to the Trump campaign's threat to file additional legal challenges?
You know, Lana, they haven't intervened in any of these cases. The DNC has, the state Democratic Party has, but they've generally stayed somewhat out of this. What they've been doing today, I think, is trying to get the country comfortable with the idea that Joe Biden is now going to be president. They released sort of a promo video on Twitter, and he released a video where he and Kamala Harris were on the phone, sort of discussing winning. But we haven't had him come out yet and say, "I've won." We're thinking that might happen at 8 o'clock when he is scheduled to speak.
All right, I'm still at that fine print that you pointed out, Zach, that some of that money that they're mounting for the legal challenges are actually going to pay off campaign debt. Very interesting stuff. Zach Rudak, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Georgia. Can everybody please give Temple a big round of applause? That's the kind of young people that are going to lead the way. Oh, I am excited. Thank you for arranging for good weather. It is good to be back. I've got one word for you, Atlanta. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, after 4 years of failure, you have the power to change America. Tomorrow you can put an end to the politics that tries to divide a nation just to win an election. It tries to stoke conspiracy theories and fear at a time when we need confidence and we need hope.
Trump refuses to concede.
Is the most important election of our lifetime. And you can deliver the change that we need. But you're going to have to vote. If you haven't dropped off your ballot yet, please do not wait any longer. If you voted already, help your friends and family find their polling places at iwillvote.com. Help them make a plan to vote tomorrow. Because this election is going to take every single one of us. And right here in Georgia, you've got an even bigger power to deliver the change that we need. You can be a state that sends Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the White House. I got a chance to campaign with Joe over the weekend. And
Came for the free soup and oyster crackers. Well, you ain't gonna find that here.
He was the last one in the room whenever I faced a big decision.
We're watching stuff about Joe Biden and
he's got
President Trump not wanting to concede.
And he and Kamala are going to be in the fight, not for themselves, but for every single one of us. But if they are going to deliver the change we need, getting this pandemic under control, restarting our economy, protecting our health care, protecting our planet, reforming our criminal justice system, giving every young person an equal chance, then they're also going to need a Senate that actually cares about those things. So, Georgia, not only can you put Joe and Kamala over the top, but you can be the state that gives us all a better chance because you've also sent John Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock to the United States Senate. Yeah, I didn't originally plan to come to Georgia. You know, you see all this gray hair I got? You know, it still looks good, you said? All right. I'll let Michelle know. But the reason I'm here, look, I thought after my last campaign in 2012, I thought, all right, you know, I'll campaign in 16 and then I'll just kind of go off and, you know, write my book and work on my golf game and spend a little more time with my wife. Things didn't work out the way we expected because we weren't focused. Each one of us didn't do everything we needed to do. And so in this election, when I got a call and said, look, Georgia could be the state. Georgia could be the place where we.
Yeah, well, when you're streaming off of your phone, you know, you got to work with what you got to work with.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a chance to win Georgia, but you've got the chance to flip 2 Senate seats. I said, well, I got to go. I got to come. I told Michelle, I'm sorry, but I got to go to Georgia. This is a big deal.
Well, you don't think I'm streaming off the phone?
Extraordinary candidates in John and the Reverend who deserve your vote. And let's face it, you've also got 2 senators who badly need to be replaced. Look, I served in the Senate. I remember when we used to get briefings in the Senate for threats, including the kinds of briefings that your 2 current senators got about COVID-19. They got briefed. You know, you go into this room and it's all top secret and you got to kind of close everything off. And, you know, you can't take anything out of the briefing room because this is part of your responsibility as a public servant. And the point of these briefings is so that you can take quick action to protect the American people before it's too late. That's why the Senate gets these special briefings, to serve the interests of the people who have sent you to Washington, to serve their interests before your own. When I heard that your 2 senators here in Georgia, and understand what I'm about to say now is not a partisan statement. I'd be just as hard if I heard a Democrat was doing this. Your 2 senators publicly were telling you that the virus would be no big deal. But behind closed doors, they were making a bunch of moves in the stock market to try to make sure their portfolios were protected instead of making sure you were protected. Man, that's shady. I mean, that ain't right. They downplayed the pandemic in public, and in private, they're trying to see if they can profit from it. Both of them, not just one on both of them. They're like Batman and Robin gone bad. It's like the dynamic duo of doing wrong. I don't know what they were thinking, but Georgia, I promise you, Georgia was definitely not on their mind. It was not. And what's the result of betraying the public's trust? 230,000 Americans are dead. More than 100,000 small businesses have closed. Almost 200,000 jobs are gone in Georgia alone. If President Trump and your senators had been focused on COVID from the beginning instead of their portfolios or their TV ratings, cases wouldn't be reaching new record highs across the country just this week. 9 months into the pandemic, America just had the single worst week of new cases. Think about that. All the people who voluntarily quarantined, all the folks who've been working at home, all the mothers and fathers who've been looking after their children at home, trying to keep everybody safe. And after all that, we saw the worst week because we had people like your two senators who were not taking it seriously. We had a president who was pretending it was just like a bad flu. And now Trump's chief of staff finally admits what we've known all along. He was quoted just a few days ago. He said, "We're not going to control the pandemic." Well, yeah, we noticed. You definitely are not. But you know what? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris can get on top of this pandemic. And if we got two new senators from Georgia, we can have a government that's making that happen.
That's agreeable.
What's Trump's closing argument right now? Yeah. Last night on his COVID spreader tour, he's going around spreading COVID. He's like a carrier because he cares more about having big crowds than he does about keeping people safe. He told his supporters, "Don't tell anybody, but he's going to fire Dr. Fauci after the election." Don't boo. Well, we had signs up a couple days ago, it was Halloween, that said had a ghost on there that said, "Don't boo, vote." Come on. So just in case you were worried that Trump had been taking COVID too seriously, he's stated publicly he's going to fire the one person in the administration. A carryover was also the president. When I was in there, helped me deal with Ebola and H1N1, was one of the people who was at the front lines of dealing with HIV/AIDS, one of the world's leading experts on infectious disease, one of the few people in this administration who's been taking this seriously all along. And what he said, his second term plan is to fire that guy. I mean, they've already said they're not going to contain the pandemic. Now they want to fire the one person who could actually help them contain the pandemic. So Georgia, if you think they've done a bad job in managing COVID so far, basically what they're telling you now is you ain't seen nothing yet. Trump's saying he might, in this election, he's been saying he might declare victory before all the votes have been counted. Well, that's just what he did on this virus. And how'd that turn out? Listen, America deserves better than this. Georgia, you deserve better than this. You really do. And here's the good news. Tomorrow you can choose something better. Tomorrow you can send John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock to the United States Senate. And they can team up with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and get on top of this crisis. Yes, we can. Look, let me just in case you're unfamiliar with the track record of the two outstanding candidates for Senate that you've heard from. John Ossoff's life has prepared him to serve as your senator. He learned about public service from my dear friend, one of my lifelong heroes, John Lewis. He's dedicated his career to fighting injustice. He knows we need a new Voting Rights Act that makes sure every Georgian is treated equally under the law, that makes sure every Georgian can exercise the right to vote, that people like John Lewis bled for. John Ossoff runs a company that investigates crime and corruption around the world, which sounds like something we could use in Washington right now. That's like kryptonite to Donald Trump and those corporate lobbyists that he's all put in his cabinet. It's like water on the Wicked Witch. You remember? John's wife, Alicia, is a doctor. She delivers babies. And like so many doctors who've been risking their lives to save others, so many nurses and healthcare workers on the front lines, Alicia's been putting herself at risk. So you know that John's not going to go around accusing doctors of trying to profit from the pandemic. You heard that's what Trump said, right? He said, well, doctors are exaggerating this because they just want to make more money. These doctors, these nurses, these healthcare workers, they are in there, they are exposing themselves to this disease. They are more at risk than anybody. And John Ossoff understands that because he's seeing it in his own family. He's going to listen to the experts and work with Joe Biden to get this pandemic under control with a plan to make testing and vaccines free for every American and make sure our frontline heroes never have to ask other countries for the equipment they need because it's going to be here, right there, ready for American workers. And you know the other thing John's going to do is he's going to protect your health care. There have been more than 9 million cases of COVID-19 in America. And even for folks who get better, your insurer could still consider COVID-19 a pre-existing condition, which means you might not be able to get insurance next time if the protections that we put in place 10 years ago with the Affordable Care Act were eliminated. Republicans love to say right before an election, they're going to protect your pre-existing conditions. Listen, with the Affordable Care Act, Joe Biden and I actually did it 10 years ago. Those protections are already in place. We required insurers to cover your pre-existing conditions. And since then, Republicans have tried to repeal or undermine the Affordable Care Act more than 60 times. They promised, don't worry, after we repeal it, we're going to replace it with a really wonderful plan. Every 2 weeks for 10 years, they've been promising a new plan. Have you seen this new plan? I haven't either. Nobody's seen it. You know why? Because they don't have a new plan. They've just attacked the Affordable Care Act at every turn, and in the process, driven up costs, driven up the uninsured. Now they're in the Supreme Court trying to get the Supreme Court to take your health care away in the middle of the pandemic. Why would you do that? Just to spite me. Why in the middle of a pandemic would you offer nothing but empty promises and try to kick people off their health care? Georgia, something got to go. It's either your senators or your health care. If I were you, I'd choose your health care. Get rid of the senators who are trying to take it away. You know your senators aren't going to stand up to protect it. They love to talk tough like President Trump. But one of the things they have in common with him is when you start calling them out, they cut and run. You saw President Trump, he's in the middle of a 60 Minutes interview. He just walked out. It's too tough. He quit in the middle of an interview. Somebody's asking him, well, what are you going to do in your second term? Oh, that's too tough. I'm leaving. And then you saw it again last week when John Ossoff called out Senator Perdue on health care in their debate. Perdue was like one of those chickens. I would have felt bad for the guy if he hadn't voted 4 times to take away your pre-existing conditions protection. 4 times he voted against it. They were supposed to have another debate last night. Perdue chickened out. Pulled out.
No, numbers don't lie. Biden won. Trump's just refusing to concede. He's whining.
But let me tell you what's really scary, Jordan. Republicans threatening to end pre-existing conditions protections for 100 million people in the middle of a pandemic. That is scary. And you have the power to do something about it.
If Trump's wanting to remain president, he's going to have to claim martial law.
Healthcare, they will expand Medicare. They will make it.
And honestly, I think Trump's too stupid to do that.
And so will Reverend Raphael Warnock. Let me talk about the good Reverend right now. I won't preach it, but I will offer testimony. This is a man who preaches at Ebenezer Baptist Church in the pulpit of its great pastor, Dr. King. He's read the Gospels, and they might not have known about pre-existing conditions back then, but the Reverend will tell you Jesus spent time healing the sick, caring for the poor. When Georgia Republicans fought against expanding Medicaid to cover hundreds of thousands of your fellow Georgians, Reverend Warnock followed the example of John Lewis and got himself arrested getting into good trouble. Reverend Warnock.
No, there's no fraud with it. Mail-in voting was actually put in place by Trump. That's the funny thing. He doesn't just
talk the talk. He walks the walk. Here's a man who grew up in public housing in Savannah with 11 brothers and sisters. That's a lot of brothers and sisters. That taught him a little bit about working together, about looking out for others.
What do you mean by am I doing better?
His mom spent her summers as a young woman picking cotton and tobacco. His dad was a veteran.
I mean, doing better. There's still the daily, the daily stresses and the daily struggles that we all go through.
To dignity.
I think I'm doing okay.
Working people.
This time we talk financially and
Morehouse man.
Oh yeah. No,
but he did it with the help of Pell Grant.
Let me actually pause this real quick. My next appointment with the psychiatrist is the 12th. Those are we do video calling because my psychiatrist is working from home. On new medication as well called olazapine, and it's I'm doing a lot better mentally wise. I'm doing a lot better. Physically doing a lot better, emotionally doing a lot better, but the daily struggles though and the daily worries that we all go through is still, it's still going to be there. Other than that though, I'm doing good. Have a lot to be thankful for, just not enough time to talk about all of it. Yeah, we're doing good.
So
hold on, actually.
For every single young person who dreams of a college education but doesn't know how he or she's going to pay for next semester's classes. He's been there. Last time I saw Reverend in person was at Ebenezer.
Excuse me.
He possesses the moral courage John did to question right and wrong and call things for what they are.
Oh.
He's got the moral clarity to shine a spotlight on injustice and make the powers that be uncomfortable. And we need some folks who will shake things up a little bit. And he's going to lead us in Washington to overcome our own complacency and our own fears and our own prejudices to become better versions of ourselves. That's who he is. And that's who we all
just sitting back, relaxing. There's my lighter. I knew I'd put it somewhere.
We got 1 day left. I've been making a lot of arguments out there. Some of them should be obvious. And yet I know that there's still people out there who aren't voting. So I want to talk to you right now, people of Georgia right now who decided not to vote. Maybe you don't like who's in the White House right now, but you just lost faith in government. You're frustrated. You don't think government makes a difference. Maybe you're troubled by what the two current senators in Georgia have done, but you're not really confident or certain about how much of a difference it'll make in your lives. And I understand that. Government's not perfect. Government doesn't solve every problem. We've got a long legacy in this country of hardship and prejudice and people who are powerful and rich taking advantage of folks who aren't. And we have a history right here in Georgia that John Lewis fought and others fought. And sometimes I can get down. Michelle can get down. Sometimes we're at the dinner table, we're just like, Lord, why are we still fighting some of these battles? I thought we settled some of these arguments. I thought we had turned a corner. Why are we still hearing people praise folks who think that the color of your skin determines your status? Why are we still acting as if women shouldn't be treated the same as men and paid the same for doing the same work? Why are we having these old arguments? I thought these were done. It can be discouraging sometimes. And you drive through some neighborhoods in Atlanta or Chicago or Washington, D.C., or you go out in some rural areas in some small towns and you think, you know what? Folks are still having a hard time. Some of the things that should have been fixed haven't been fixed, and you get discouraged. I get it.
Excuse me.
Even as president of the United States, there were times where I thought, man, I thought I could get this done or that done, and somehow the special interests and the lobbyists and others are blocking it and making
getting
it
comments on videos that I've already posted. That's funny.
But you know what? Whenever I get in one of those, I just remind myself that when we work together, when we put in a little bit of effort, things may not get perfect, but they do get better. When John Lewis started marching across that bridge, it didn't eliminate racism and bigotry in America, but it started something that got the Voting Rights Act passed. And it made things better. I didn't get everything done that I wanted to get done when I was president, but I could say when I look back at the end of 8 years, you know what? The country is better off now than it was when I took office. 20-some million people have health care that didn't have it before. That's a good thing. Children that were in poverty have been lifted up out of poverty. Not all of them, but some of them, that's a good thing. Maybe this next generation came up and saw that, black and white can work together, that we don't have to be at odds, that we can treat each other with dignity and respect, that we don't have to be scared of each other, but should reach out to each other. A president by himself can't solve every challenge in the economy. But if we elect people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, if we elect Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff, who are focused on working people and getting you the help that you need, it can make a difference for thousands of people and 10,000 people, 100, maybe a few million people might be better off. A president by himself can't eliminate all racial bias in our criminal justice system, but if we elect district attorneys and state's attorneys and sheriffs who are focused on equality and justice, it can make things better. John understood this. Dr. King understood this. Abraham Lincoln understood. George Washington understood. We knew, John, I remember talking to John Lewis right before he passed. And we talked about all these young people who would come out to start this wave of marches, nonviolent, peaceful protests all across the country. And we talked about how this younger generation, they don't have to choose between protest and politics. If we're going to translate our aspirations into laws and practices, we've got to engage in both. There's nothing un-American about protest. This country was founded on protesting against injustice. That's what the American Revolution was about. Now, John ran for office all those years and kept protesting even while he was in office because he understood they're two sides of the same coin. It's us acting on behalf of our highest aspirations, even though we know we won't get there. We're never going to get all the way to the promised land, but we can help lay the path for future generations to get there. That's what public service should be about. That's what citizenship should be about. That's what voting is about. Not making things perfect, but making things better. Laying that path, brick by brick, to a better future. Putting us on track so that a generation from now, 2 generations.
It is now my great honor to introduce the President-elect of the United States of America, Joe Biden.
Yeah, I don't want to watch that. That was last night. Really? Wow. Okay. Search. Let's go.
United States of America, Kamala Harris.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. So, thank you. Good evening. So, Congressman John Lewis, before his passing, wrote, "Democracy is not a state, it is an act." And what he meant was that America's democracy is not guaranteed. It is only as strong as our willingness to fight for it. To guard it and never take it for granted. And protecting our democracy takes struggle, it takes sacrifice, but there is joy in it, and there is progress, because we, the people, have the power to build a better future. And when our very democracy was on the ballot in this election, the very soul of America at stake, and the world watching, you ushered in a new day for America. To our campaign staff and volunteers, this extraordinary team, thank you for bringing more people than ever before into the
What's up, brother? How you doing tonight? Sorry, I'm doing multiple things. I'm watching the president or the Joe Biden speech in full.
Workers and election officials
I'm just chilling.
Our country, who have worked tirelessly to make sure every vote is counted. Our nation owes you a debt of gratitude. You have protected the integrity of our democracy. And to the American people,
This was previously recorded.
Thank you for turning out in record numbers to make
This is election 2020 President-elect Joe Biden delivers speech. Was streamed live on November 7th.
And I know times have been challenging, especially the last several months. The grief, sorrow, and pain, the worries, and the struggles. But we have also
supposedly by the numbers, Biden won by a landslide.
And the generosity of your spirit. For 4 years, you marched and organized for equality and justice, for our lives and for our planet. And then you voted. And you delivered a clear message. You chose hope and unity, decency, science, and yes, truth.
Cheers, by the way.
You chose Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. And Joe is a healer.
Oh,
a tested and steady man. A person whose own experience of law gives him a sense of purpose that will help us as a nation reclaim our own sense of purpose. And a man with a big heart.
Yeah, no, neither. I'm not stuck in the left or right, bullshit. It's. I don't support Trump. He's a businessman, not a politician. Trump, he's a businessman. He's not a politician.
And while I first knew Joe as vice president, I really got to know him as the father who loved both. My dear friend, who we remember here today. And to my husband, Doug, and our children, Cole and Ella, and my sister Maya, and our whole family. I love y'all more than I can ever express. We are so grateful to Joe and Bill for welcoming.
I don't know. I still up in the air, I think. Really, the only politician is
was always in our heart. When she came here to India at the age of 19, she maybe didn't quite imagine, but she believed so deeply in an America where a moment like this is possible. And while I'm thinking about her and about the generations of women, Black women, Asian, white, Latina, Native American women who throughout our nation's history have paved the way for this moment tonight. Women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality and liberty and justice for all, including the Black women who are often, too often overlooked, but so often prove they are the backbone of our democracy. All the women who have worked to secure and
sorry, I'm just grinding up some weed right now. I'm just
100 years ago with the 19th Amendment, 55 years ago with the Voting Rights Act, and now in 2020 with a new generation of women in our country who cast their ballot and continued the fight for their fundamental right to vote and be heard.
Yeah.
Tonight I reflect on their struggle, their determination, and the strength of their vision.
I honestly believe that we need to not incriminate, but regulate.
And I stand on their shoulders.
And what my honesty.
It is to Joe's character that he had the audacity to break one of the most substantial barriers that exists in our country and select a woman as his vice president. But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
She's got a point.
Because every little girl watching tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities. And to the children of our country, regardless of your gender, our country has sent you a clear message. Dream with ambition, lead with conviction, and be yourselves in a way that others may not, simply because they've never seen it before.
Holy shit.
And prepared, waking up every day, thinking of you and your family. Because now is when the real work begins. The hard work. The necessary work.
Holy shit.
The essential work to save lives and beat this epidemic. To rebuild our economy so it works for workers. To systemic racism in our justice system and society. To combat the climate crisis. To unite our country and heal the soul of our nation.
Oh, shit.
And the road
Woo.
ahead will not be easy.
That was a good hit.
But America is ready. And so are Joe and I.
Fucking hell.
We have elected a president who represents the best in us. A leader the world will respect and our children will look up to. A commander-in-chief who will respect our troops and keep our country safe. And a president for all Americans. And it is now my great honor to introduce the President-elect of the United States of America, Joe Biden.
What is that distribution? What? Yeah. Excuse me. This may be 2 bowls.
My fellow Americans, and the people who brought me the dance, Delawareans. I see my buddy Senator Tom Carper down there, and I think Senator Coons is there, and I think the governor's around. And is that Ruth Ann? And that former Governor Ruth Ann Minner. Most importantly, my sisters-in-law, my sister Valerie. Anyway, folks, the people of this nation have spoken. They've delivered us a clear victory, a convincing victory, a victory for we, the people. We've won with the most votes ever cast on a presidential ticket in the history of the nation. 74 million. What I must admit has surprised me. Tonight, we're seeing all over this nation, all cities and all parts of the country, indeed across the world, an outpouring of joy, of hope, renewed faith in tomorrow. Bring a better day. And I'm humbled by the trust and confidence you've placed in me. I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify. Who doesn't see red states and blue states, only sees the United States. And work with all my heart, with the confidence of the whole people, to win the confidence of all of you. And for that is what America, I believe, is about.
Excuse me.
It's about people.
Hey, Jessica.
And that's what our administration will be all about. I sought this office to restore the soul of America, to rebuild the backbone of this nation, the middle class, and to make America respected around the world again. And to unite us here at home. It's the honor of my lifetime that so many millions of Americans have voted for that vision. And now the work of making that vision is real. It's a task, the task of our time. Folks, as I said many times before, I'm Jill's husband. And I would not be here without her love and tireless support of Jill and my son Hunter and Ashley, my daughter, and all our grandchildren and their spouses and all our family.
In the process of loading the ball.
Jill's a mom, a military mom, an educator. She has dedicated her life to education. But teaching isn't just what she does, it's who she is. For American educators, this is a great day for y'all. You're going to have one of your own in the White House. And Jill's going to make a great first lady. I'm so proud of her. Well, I'll have the honor of serving with the fantastic vice president you just heard from, Kamala Harris, who makes history as the first woman, first black woman, the first woman from South Asian descent, the first daughter of an immigrant ever elected in this country. Don't tell me it's not possible in the United States. It's long overdue. And we're reminded tonight of those who fought so hard for so many years to make this happen. Once again, America's bent the arc of the moral
I'm making this into a bowl to where
Kamala, Doug,
it's just going to knock me on my ass.
your family, you become an honorary Biden. There's no way out. All those of you volunteered and worked the polls in the middle of this pandemic, local elected officials, you deserve a special thanks from the entire and my campaign team and all the volunteers and all who gave so much of themselves to make this moment possible. I owe you. I owe you. I owe you everything.
Honestly, I'm going to take a toke and I'm going to hop off of here
I'm
because
proud of the campaign we built and ran. I'm proud of the coalition
I
we
got
put
better
together.
things to do.
The broadest,
Not really
most
better
diverse
things to do,
coalition
but I
in
got
history.
shit to do.
Democrats, Republicans, Independents,
I'm going to take the little one out body too.
conservatives,
Mm.
young, old.
I'm just wondering what's going to be happening in my own
Gay, straight,
fucking city.
transgender, white, Latino, Asian.
Because I live in a red state.
I mean it, especially those moments. Especially those moments when this campaign was at its lowest ebb.
Much love, everybody. I'll see you guys all in the next one.
You always have my